Okay, alright, so this is going to be another two-part video for my master's program at Full Sail University. My name again is Ryan Strong, and so first we'll go over the milestones for this week. We'll start off actually with milestone 5 first, just to kind of refresh. So milestone 5, we had obstacles, main menu, credits, tutorial, wall colliders, and terrain. Terrain was pushed to this milestone, but that did not get taken care of, and there will be an explanation of that in this video. So first we'll go over this milestone here, milestone 6. So we had particles, game music, wall colliders, lighting, leaderboards, and fix lag on device. So the fix lag on device, that's something that came up pretty early in the week, and it became a main priority. That's why it's got 2 A's there for priority, because it was the biggest issue that I had to take care of this week, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get it fixed until today, Sunday. So we'll talk about that a little bit today, and a few other things. So with the particles, I did complete that. Basically what I did was I added some fire, and I also added the dust that shows when the player's riding around on the motorcycle, which you'll see when I do the test on the device and on here. Still a few things left to do with that for other purposes, but for particles in general, it's marked as complete. Game music, so I had to push that. It was not completed. I didn't touch it. I had to move it to milestone 7 because of the lag issue. Same thing with wall colliders. I had initially started it, and I got maybe 2 or 3 in, and then I went to test them out, and that's when I found out that I was having issues with the lag in the game. So I stopped doing that and moved to the other thing. Lighting is pretty much complete for the game now, for the most part. It was a priority. It's lighting for the level to give the player more real feel, and I'll show you that in the game mostly, but I'll also show you the positions and placement of things in the in Unity itself. Leaderboard, for the leaderboard, literally all I did was created a separate scene, and I set up the canvas for the initial setup for it. I still have to go through and do all the scripting for it, but the primary thing I wanted to do with this was at least get the scene set up so that all I had to do was drop things in for the last little bit. So on to the fix lag on device issue. So I did a lot of research into this because it was a major problem for me this week. I also had a minor issue with it when I was building this on iOS as opposed to just Android. So I did some research, and some of the things that I found out were dealing with the VSync and a lot of the main editor things. I tried fixing those, none of those worked. Then I tried disabling a few things. That stuff didn't work. So what I had to do was, the first thing I did in my lighting here, I made sure that everything was set up properly there. So I have baked GI set up. I have my skybox that I'm currently using, added my directional light, and then I'm making sure that my source is the skybox as well as reflection source. Those don't matter as much, so they're not very hurtful. I did try adding fog at one point in time because it really added to the scene and made it feel eerie and made it feel ominous like I want, but it wasn't really working out properly with the with everything lagging as much as it was. So went into the project settings here, and I looked at the editor for a bit. I tried to go in and mess with it on Android device, but unfortunately the device that we are utilizing for Android, it doesn't work with with Unity. It's not supported by Unity, so I can't use it at all. I basically have to build the game, upload it to Dropbox, and then open Dropbox on my device, download the game that way, install it, and then test it. So it's very redundant. It's painful. So next I went into the graphics. I checked in here for a bit, and I didn't change anything in here because it didn't really feel like any of this stuff needed to be messed with. From there, I went in to quality, and this is where I did a few changes. I did several changes because I was constantly testing things out. So I changed the texture quality. Initially it starts off at full resolution. I changed it to 8th res, and I didn't really notice a big difference, so I put it up to quarter res just because I didn't want it to look bad. So I also unchecked beautiful and fantastic for graphics in the quality up here because that's not something that I'm worried about for this. I want it to be smooth and able to play on the device. Then I changed the shadows to hard shadows only. I wanted to make sure that those were the only ones showing. If I worried about soft shadows, it's going to put too much on the system. Then the shadow resolution I changed from very high. I think it was at high. I put it to low resolution. And that's really all I messed with the shadows. The other things I messed with here was the V-Sync. I tried a couple things. I tried not to sync. That did not help at all. And then something I had read mentioned making sure every V blank was the one that you used, so I left it at that. From there, I went into the player here and double checked everything in here to make sure there wasn't something that I could do in here to fix it. I did make sure that it was marked as an Android game, so that it was good to go. Some of these other things I just did a minor change on, and nothing really major that kind of messes with the game. I did mess with this. I did check this one, optimize mesh data. That way it removes any meshes that aren't actually used, or mesh components that aren't actually used, just to try and get that to help as well. But again, that stuff did not help whatsoever. So in the end, what I found the biggest problem was in here in the terrain. You have this little box here for trees and I guess bushes you could add as well. I think most people use the paint detail for that one, but these trees. So I had 4 different types of trees here, and I would place them on the scene. I'd have them placed so that, you know, it looked like there was vegetation in the game, and the player could ride past it. And some of them, they all had a collider. It's just a small capsule collider. That way, if they did hit it, then they would wreck if they're going a proper speed or higher. Well, come to find out that those trees were giving me a huge lag spike. And how I found that out was I went to this profiler here, and this profiler here, a lot of the issues I have was with this camera render. It's at 70.3%, which is this greenish colored thing up here. That's saying that most of my CPU usage is from that. All of this other stuff here, I'm getting 1,000 frames per second or more based off of the stuff down here, like the garbage collector, physics, VSync, GI. But this rendering right here, it's really taking a toll on the system. Now, this is just using it in Unity, in the built-in editor right here. Unfortunately, again, with the Android device that I have not being compatible with this system, with Unity, I can't check this box here, Android. If I click on Android, it does nothing. It won't play. It won't do anything. So it's not very beneficial to me at all. So what I'll do real quick, let me make sure certain things are. I'll go ahead and hit play, and I'll show you that profiler and how it works. So as you see, it's running. The game is currently running, and everything now, based off of all the stuff that I have in there, is really smooth. My different things are popping up down here for the totals, behavior update, but my camera rendering, let me pause it. Go back to the profiler. So let's find camera rendering. I don't even see it in here. Where's rendering? Here's some rendering. So I mean, rendering down here, these ones, it's nothing. I mean, it's very low. The highest things I have right now is this behavior update, and that's all the updates for the game. You know, what's happening in the game. It's constantly checking to see if the bike is being used, the event system, the animation. It's always checking to see bike camera. So that's where all of this high percentage is coming from, and that's good because that's all I really want to worry about. I do have one peak right here. Let's see what that is. Rendering update dirty renderers. So I'm not exactly sure what that one is. I'd have to take a look at it to kind of figure out what it is, but it did get really high for a brief second there. I mean, no time at all, and then it went right back down, so that's fine. Not something to be too worried about. Now, when I had all of these trees in, this rendering icon up here, this green one, it was way up here the entire time. I mean, it was super high, and that was not helping the system. So I had to take out all the trees, unfortunately. I didn't want to, but it was something that I had to do in order for the scene to actually run and function. You see I still have a few trees here. I think those are the only ones that I missed when I was removing trees. So what I did was I went in and I created the lighting, because I have a darker scene here. The player needs to be able to see, so that ended up becoming a pretty high priority after my rendering issue, or my lag issue, was for the most part fixed. So the player kind of can go around the track, and they have a decent amount of lighting in some areas. In other areas it's kind of dark, but they come up on a light pretty quickly. I didn't want it to be too dark for them for the whole game. And then I have a couple areas where I started to add some particles and different things to go on. So here I have a fire. This is my particle effects for this fire going on. And then I have this last area over here right near the finish where I also added a bunch of particle effects, mostly fire and a little bit of smoke. Let me see if I can, there we go. Alright, so we got this this smoke going on to make it look like, you know, there's smoke coming out of the cave here, and all these fires around because something happened. Well, this is going to be like an explosion went off that will be indicated to the player right around the time they come to the bend. They'll hit a trigger and it'll go off, and they'll see a flash of like fire, a ball of fire go off, and then they'll come around and they'll see this. So that's something that will be done this next milestone to come up. And it works out pretty well. The player sees it. I did add one bit of sound to it. Still working on making sure it's heard properly. But I do have a fire type sound, crackling fireplace sound, so that they can hear this fire that is around this area going off. Once I have it working, functioning over here, I'm going to go ahead and copy it and move it to the other one that's seen over at the other area. And then the next thing I did was I tried to make the end a little bit more inviting. I gave it a bunch of light going into a dark, kind of a darkened cave, and that's like their exit. That's where they need to go to get out of here. So I added that to kind of give the player some hope of, oh, maybe I'm going to get away from this crapshoot that I'm in. So I'll do a quick play. Oh, let me stop this. Okay, I'll do a quick play real quick of this in the scene. Let me make sure. Okay, good. So let me do full screen. Oh, I also got rid of that start tutorial because next milestone I'll be adding a more interactive tutorial, just one that kind of pushes the player to do certain things, so that while they're playing, they learn how to play as opposed to just reading a brief instruction guide. So I have removed that, but we'll do this quick playthrough here. So we have the bike, still pretty plain looking scene, but unfortunately that's kind of what I have to deal with now. But you see this particle here. I got a nice particle effect of smoke going off the tires from being on the dirt. And they follow this around. It's much brighter on here than it is on the device, and that's just because of me playing it in the editor. You don't get a full good view of it until it's actually completely built and being played on an actual device, or if it was like in the game or anything. Oh, another thing that I added that I did not mention, and you're probably not going to see it. I think it's already gone. Nope, that just on the corner there, if you saw it, was a minecart that you hit a trigger and it goes off, and it kind of blocks your path and goes in front of you to kind of mess you up as you're riding along. One of those obstacles, like a cave that kind of explodes or something. Probably add a nice little effect to it later on to give it a feel of something happened in that cave, but for the time being, oh, my profiler, I have my profiler still running. I have to close that. Let's try that again. Sorry about that. Profiler's running, it ran out of samples. What is this doing? Yes, I know I don't want you to run it anymore. I think I need to actually stop it completely. Don't record. Let's see if that works. Nope. Sorry about this, folks. For some reason, the profiler is acting really funny, and that's not something I want. I might not be able to. Let me try and do that. Let me see if that matters at all. It probably doesn't, but we can try. That might have fixed it. Nope, it didn't. Alright, that's something I'm going to have to look up to figure out what's going on with that. But overall, this is the game in a nutshell, and I'll continue with part 2 of this shortly when I record it being played on an actual device also. Alright, have a good one.